Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Welcome to the Frontline updates. I'm very sure everyone is eager to find out what's the situation in Pokrovsk and other places in Ukrainian frontline because we hear a lot of movements both from Russian and Ukrainian side. So let's get into it and understand what is true, what is not. Pokrovsk has been quite a lot in the news lately, both because Russian propaganda has been already stating that they pretty much won Pokrovsk, as well as some of the other war observers jumping the gun, stating that, oh, Pokrovsk is a complete disaster and Ukraine is completely lost as well. None of these are true. But this underscores the main desire of everyone. Everyone wants to hear one short, clear answer. Is Pokrovsk lost, everything is gone, or is like Ukraine winning and Russians are just completely destroyed? Well, neither of these are true. What's happening in Pokrovsk right now is war. It is a battlefield, and this is how it should be treated. So when there is movement in a battlefield, it doesn't mean that the war is lost or anything else is falling apart. This is just part of the battlefield. But I think the best way to summarize situation of Pokrovsk is there is a warrior by the nickname Bakhmut Demon on Telegram, and he, in a span of 24 hours, wrote two messages that I think absolutely clearly summarizes what kind of perspective of information is there from Pokrovsk. This is a message yesterday, 2nd November at 22:48, where it says everything is very difficult in Pokrovsk. And then there is second message today at 8:09. Again, he's in the same direction. There were successes. I won't say where, but this is not what it says charity, but he actually just used slur for Russians. This is not what the Russians expected. And this has been the true situation for all sources of information coming from Pokrovsk. There are sources stating that Ukrainians are fighting back and are having localized successes, but there's also reports that the situation is very difficult and Pokrovsk is a very difficult place to fight at for Ukraine. So let's look specifically at the direction itself and what we could expect. The main question from previous discussion about Pokrovsk last week was, what will Ukraine do with the forces that are in this pocket? My perspective was that this is what's going to define how the situation is going to develop. The fact that this pocket still exists means that for the last week, Ukrainians saw the possibility still to supply these troops, and they saw the ability to potentially deblockade them. But Russians had certain success during the week, specifically in the city center of Pokrovsk. As you can see, this gray area has been expanded. Now, also, it's important to underscore, gray area is not the same as Russian controlled area. Oftentimes, gray area is controlled by just drones, and there's just Russian units infiltrating. So someone just looks at this map and then says like, oh my God, here is a great gray area, and then here is a great area, and there is like 2 kilometers in between them. Ukrainians are encircled. No, they're not. No, they're not. Drone controls, yes. You cannot get proper logistics in, yes. But most of logistics are done by drones now anyway. But it's not an encirclement. Like, it doesn't mean that this is fully controlled by Russians. This is not how it works. But coming back to the general assessment, I believe that this pocket that is still being preserved here for now is preserved because of Ukrainian successes in the region, specifically in the northern side of Pokrovsk area. This is where Russians did their main incursion. Ukrainians were able not only to collapse this cauldron right here and completely capture the Russians encircled or destroy them, they were also successful in pushing east in these directions towards Shakhove and squeezing the Russians out. So now, with also some of the Russian attacks towards Shakhove, which is located right over here, this is where Russian armored columns were going, and Ukrainians were fighting them successfully. With Russian failures in this area right now, this poises Ukraine for kind of good success in the north, clearing potentially this area over here, as well as then exerting pressure towards Nikhanorivka, which is located right over here, and further push them south, because especially Ukrainians this week stated that any infiltration in a very key settlement of Rodinske, which is located right over here, have been cleared out. So if Ukrainians cleared out Rodinske, if they're able to move from north towards south, and if they're able to, for example, then slice off this salient right over here in the coming days or weeks, then this will de facto deblockade Pokrovsk and Mirnograd and will allow better supply of reinforces and material into this pocket. And whether to hold this pocket or not, that's not for us to decide. Ukrainian command needs to decide. And some people say, like, well, it's if just Syrskyi is going to decide, then it's going to be pretty bad. But it's not just Syrskyi deciding. In the last couple of days, we've heard extensively that Syrskyi has been present in this direction. The head of the intelligence, Budanov, has been present in this direction, and they were also conducting special operations in the area. And more importantly, as it's stated here, Syrskyi actually had a meeting with all of the main brigade commanders that are operating in the area. So it's not like people that are fighting in the area didn't have an option to report the situation and explain the situation to commander-in-chief on what is being done and how it's being done and what the plan is. So there is something happening with the command structure here, and Syrskyi has shown that he is listening to the commands. It's just sometimes it's not getting properly reported. So I believe that what we could expect coming up next, if you want to ask for my prognosis, I think that Ukrainian Special Forces infiltration was a special operation for maybe deblockade some of the Ukrainian troops that have been captured in the city. I don't feel that the operation with the helicopter was there to push Russians out. Like, that's not the purpose of the special forces of Ukraine. But I want to underscore one very clear thing. There is this Russian video that is going around, and for some reason, some of the pro-Ukrainian channels are actually reporting on this, like this is some kind of proof of helicopter being destroyed and the whole Ukrainian squad that was attacking on helicopter being wiped out. Well, let's watch this Russian video. So here, this is a Ukrainian video with them performing the operation. You see that Ukrainian Special Forces dismounting, and then you can see actually at the end of the video, you see the helicopter flying away. Yes, there we go. This one is helicopter flying away. So you can see that. And then it switches to the Russian video. And I mean, I am no video expert, but like, can you make anything apart here? Like, can you tell me what location is this? Or what is this exactly? Russians are stating that this is like the same area. Why? Well, because previous shot was from helicopter, but now it's Russians bombing stuff and things are exploding, and you see there's like people on the video that are highlighted red. It can be from literally anywhere. This video proves absolutely nothing. It cannot be geolocated. It is absolute nonsense. And I mean, like, anyone who believes Russians, like, hello, are you stupid or what? So overall, my thoughts and predictions are that this pocket most likely will be pushed back up. I think Ukrainians will re-establish the defensive lines around Gnativka, Moskovske, right over here. And I truly believe that they will try to preserve Mirnograd and the northern parts of Pokrovsk as much as they can, especially because there will be a push coming north where Ukrainians are having success around the Dobropilya axis. So is Pokrovsk lost and there is like nothing that can be done? No, absolutely not. Is the situation pretty bad? Yes, it's a battlefield, but is something happening that is like, whoa, it's like suddenly, unexpectedly, situation just got worsened? No, absolutely not. Pokrovsk has been buried, instead that it's going to be taken since July last year, or even June last year, when Ocheretino fell and Russians were advancing towards Pokrovsk quite rapidly. Already then there was the first claims that like, oh, Pokrovsk is about to go down. I'll remind you that the fact that Russians are in city doesn't mean that they still captured the city. Must I remind that, for example, Chasiv Yar, that has been their next city after Bakhmut, is still not fully captured by Russians. So, no, I don't think that it's right to bury all the efforts of Ukrainian armed forces. I think what's happening right now in Pokrovsk is a battlefield. It's a battle position, and I think Ukrainians are trying to evaluate. And once again, it's not like just Syrskyi commands something from up top. He is having consultations with the people on the ground. And to get a better perspective, I want you to immerse yourself into the situation inside Pokrovsk. We start with immersing into Ukrainian side. Here is a video from defenders, and the drones that you hear, those are Russian drones. So count the number of drones that you can, and count the number of explosions that these guys are experiencing from the said drones.
Нема возможности. Ебать. Это па. Свистить, сука.
Нормально? Як
Да.
прийняли?
Блять. Ох, ебать. Выход. FPV въебало? Андрюх, це по нам? Виход ще. Виход.
And then second video is actually from the Russian positions. So here are Ukrainian drones that are flying around and hunting for Russians. This is the current situation. It is all ultra saturated by drones and drones and drones and drones everywhere. That's why when you see these quantities of drone, try to imagine how it would be if I would try to move some forces into inside. And the answer is it will very, very bloody. Now, I cannot show you pictures of how bloody it gets because Ukrainians actually posted some of these pictures. But you can go to the Discord of this channel, and there is a special not safe for work channel because the pictures are very gruesome. And there are pictures from the Pokrovsk area. And it is insane. Russians are literally lying in layers there with their bodies on the approaches to Pokrovsk. It is not easy or nice for Russians over there. But let's look at other parts of Frontline. Last week, I told you that Mikhailo Drapatый, one of the best crisis commander of Ukrainian armed forces, have been put in charge of this whole sector. And here, lack of news is actually the best news. Remember the Liman direction that was talked about so much in the last couple of weeks? Well, last week, almost no movement was there. And it's not for the lack of fighting. There is fighting, but Russians are not advancing because there is a better commander now in charge and there is new operations in place. More than that, we actually get some beneficial news from Ukrainian side. They're unconfirmed, and I'm going to underscore that they're unconfirmed. Last week, we talked about small Ukrainian infiltration around the northern part of this sector with just a couple of infantry fighting vehicles. And today, just yesterday, we got news that Ukrainians are actually already counterattacking. And if we want to be a little bit more precise, then the news are that right now Ukrainians have penetrated and are basically trying to take control of this part of the front line. If this is true, then this will factually undermine the Russian offensive in Kupiansk. Now, it's not done yet. That's why I don't want to jump the gun. But the fact is remaining the same, that Ukrainians are now conducting also counterattacks. So the front line, despite the fact that Russians are slowly advancing, but that advancement is coming at a cost. In the southern area, there is still Russian movements, but I truly believe that the same issues are still persisting for the Russians here, mostly because that there is, I don't want to say nothing here, it is still Ukraine, but there is no key objective, so to say, in the area. I would say that the next Ukrainian position that they are interested is Gulay over here. It used to be a main Ukrainian command post. It's not there anymore. It's been moved, but still Russians are having some success, but Ukrainians are trying to do whatever they can. But we know that Russians are just trying to move forward and forward and forward, and Ukrainians are trying to juggle their resources as they're scarce. And as we discussed, the main issue is not that Ukraine is not mobilizing enough resources. It is that people are just getting exhausted, tired, and they just feel that it is way too much for them to fight. So I always stated that Ukraine needs a better approach. And finally, we see the work on that better approach being public. So Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, and this is Google translated, so don't look for accuracy here. But the Ministry of Defense has stated the new type of contracts will be introduced for Ukraine. And these are really good. First and foremost, they will be fixed term. So there will be a contract term for how many years one must serve this contract. I don't really know what postponement means for mobilization for a year. Like if you sign a contract, then you don't need to go to the military for a year, so then you can go to training or something. So it's unclear what does that mean specifically. There's going to be a choice to join specifically the units that you want. There's going to be additional monthly payments for special positions, and there's going to be additional payment for the operations, and the possibility to recontract to get some additional education within the military. And the pay that is announced is pretty good. The pay is above average of Ukrainian pay. If you want to compare to your country's pay, just so you understand what is in value, then search in your country, search country name, then median salary, it's important to use median, and then multiply it by 1.5. And then you will get kind of the understanding of what is that base pay that is proposed. And then you can evaluate yourself whether this is good or bad, or you would want higher or lower. But this is going to get you to that estimate. I thought always that this is going to be the proper way to go, to instead of trying to continue forcefully mobilize people, get proper contracts, get more benefits. Mobilized people can still be present in the military. That is still part of the defensive war, but they need to be not serving on the front lines. People on the front lines need to receive the things that they deserve. And my hopes are that they will. This is a great move towards resolving an issue. So all in all, Pokrovsk is not nearly as done as a lot of people try to claim it is. Ukrainians keep fighting. There is no collapsing front lines. The situation is tough, but that is war. And that's why it's important to continue supporting Ukraine. And we will be doing the main support activity for, I think, this year, and you will like it. I promise you that. We're going to do great things. Guys, trust in Ukraine, support the Ukrainian armed forces. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I will see you next time.